party now has to be more aware of the feelings on the ground, and that sometimes you get to see responses very quickly if it's in an area which is critical. So my question now is whether we are seeing the ruling party coming up with policies which are more populist in nature, and what does that bode for Singapore? Because for a long time, the ruling party has said that in the short term you may have to bite the bitter pill, but it is for your benefit in the long term. So how does it throw this paradigm, or what does it throw this paradigm into now? And we see a whole a series of what can be described as populist policies, like the reduction in ministerial salaries, the reduction in foreign worker passes, the reduction of benefits for PRs vis-a-vis Singaporeans. We see a budget which is populist. Is this a worrying trend? Because we've been told for a long time that, sometimes you just need to suffer for the short term. So now that for the short term, we see that we are going to benefit, has the PAP changed the way that it formulates its policies? Are they looking short term now instead of long term?
I wouldn't say that the PAP government is looking short term now instead of long term. The budget, for example, people have started it as a populist, inclusive budget. But I would see it as a budget that is needed, especially in terms of addressing the needs of those whom most of us see as those who need most help: the elderly, the low income, the disabled. But being a newcomer, coming in, participating in party caucus, having very informal conversations, I can see that a lot of my fellow parliamentarians from PAP, they're very passionate about what the causes that they're fighting for. And it's really not because, it's time to just listen more to people. These are causes that they've been fighting for a long time. And they believe strongly in it because this comes from the residents that they interact with, the people whom they meet and they work with. And similarly for me, the views that, for example, I put forth in Parliament it's not just based on my own personal views or my personal beliefs. It's also because of the views of my residents, the people whom I interact with, the people whom I've worked with, the people who have confided in me. So I would dare say that for my fellow parliamentarians from the ruling party, it's not because of the sudden change in tide or because of the last GE that they did a 180-degree turnaround and decided we must go the way of being populist. These are long-held beliefs, things that they've been fighting for, which maybe have not been implemented a few years back, and probably now is a good time to implement it because the government decided that this is probably the right time. This is a time to introduce certain measures which are needed because it's also listening a lot more to the people and the views of Singaporeans. Yeah? But at the same time, I think while introducing these new initiatives and measures, time and again, our leaders, for example, DPM, PM, have also cautioned that there's always a trade-off, right? You cannot just introduce certain measures and expect, for example, more assistance to those who need help, those who are needy. There are trade-offs involved as well. For example, when you cut down the number of foreign workers, while it's good to ensure that more Singaporeans get jobs, it also affects another group of people, the SMEs, the SME owners, who are largely Singaporeans. I have residents who come to me and tell me, these are residents who own small to medium enterprises, small businesses. And they tell me that it's very difficult to sustain my business now because I cannot get workers. Right? I advertise for many months to get Singaporeans. I can't quite get them. Some will come, and then after a few days or a few weeks, they give up the job. And when I find a worker who happens to be a foreigner, who wants to stay on, who doesn't mind working and taking a lower pay, I find it difficult to get the work permit for that worker. So there's always a trade-off. While we try to help Singaporeans, then there's also another group of Singaporeans who might find it a lot more difficult to sustain themselves, to sustain their businesses. Some might even need to close down, and which cause other Singaporeans to lose their jobs. or even their families might bear the brunt of them not sustaining their businesses. So there's always a trade-off, right? So it's finding that balance. Where can you pitch that balance to make sure that as many people, in particular, as many Singaporeans as possible can benefit without tilting the balance too much either way?
Thanks, Dr. Yentan. On these policies which have been described as populist, the opposition is quick to take credit for it, to say that the reason why you have all these changes is because the opposition has done so well, had done so well in the elections last year. So, Jan Chung, do you care to comment on it? Is it so? Is this the right way to characterize the reason why the changes are being made?
I think it's basically I always believe, as from a business background, I mean, I basically run businesses, that every time there's competition and the competitions get hotter, the incumbents will have to respond. But really, it's not so much about opposition, it's really about the people that all these policies are intended to benefit. So, I mean, for us, we support what was in the budget, most of it. I mean, because we see that it really benefits the kind of people that we have been talking about for so many years. So, I mean, so therefore we support it. So, but I always believe that, I mean, just like the handphone, I used to get, my first handphone was almost 20 years ago, and I was paying like a few $100s every month for the usage of it. Today with competition, the handphone set is so cheap, the usage cost is also cheap. There has to be certain competition to really, make everybody work much harder, much more productive. So that's what I believe in. I'm not saying we want to take the credit for it, and I mean, just happy that things are happening right now for the benefit of the people.
But if the ruling party now becomes, if they can preempt the opposition's positions, they can be more populist than the opposition. Doesn't it pull the carpet from under your feet? Because this is a contest in the end, a contest for votes.
I don't know whether this is a populist contest, I mean, personally, the way I see it is that, of course, if one day we do, come into a position that we have to be responsible for running the country, of course, we have to run it responsibly. And I think even whatever we propose now, I believe that we propose it after deep thoughts behind it to make sure that at least there is it's workable in some ways. So, I don't think I want to worry about whether the ruling party becomes popularist. I think what is more important is that we build up our own strength, build up the kind of people that we have in our party, and of course, whether Prof says that it's becoming very close to what PAP is. I mean, but I think that's just the only way to really run a place, that you must have people of certain level inside there. And of course, what policy comes out also depends on what the party leanings are and what the needs of the country will be at that point in time.